What's up, guys? Captain Blair here. Want to welcome you to Blair Wiggins Outdoors, and want to take a moment. We just got back from Texas fishing down there with the DOA Riders Fest down there with Mark Nichols, and had a ball down there. Saw a bunch of guys from the FLW, Jeff Austin, Kevin Shaw, all you guys down there. It was a pleasure seeing you guys again. But want to say thanks to Jeff Austin. He hooked me up with the best oysters I have ever had in my entire life, and I'm going to show you how to make some oyster stew the way my mom used to do, and I tell you, it's going to turn out good. These oysters remind me of the oysters I used to get out of the Banana River when I was a kid. They're big, they're plump, they're salty, they're juicy, they are nice. So first off, I'm going to show you how to shuck an oyster. Now this is a perfect example of one right here, and here we go. Is find the foot, and if you see, that is the foot right there where you can get your knife in, and I do a twisting motion to pop it up instead of pry it, because if you pry it, you're going to bend your knife. So twisting motion pops that top lid of the shell off, and then I take the bend of the knife and go all the way underneath the top, on the bottom side of the top of the shell, if that makes sense to you. And then I cut that scallop, and there you have, oh man, look at that oyster. That is a pretty one. Now my oyster knife, if you can see, it's got a little bend to it, and that's just from a lot of years doing oysters, but I like that bend in it because it enables me to basically get on the top side of the oyster and then the bottom side of the oyster. I'll show you here. Look at that. Oh man, I cannot wait for this oyster stew. And in the kitty he goes. And look at the size of those oysters. Saltiest, sweetest oysters I've ever had in my life. Okay guys, we're back inside now. We got our star of the show, these lovely big fat juicy oysters, man. I got about 2.5 dozen in there, and that should be enough. That's a little bit over a quart from what the recipe calls for. I do have my scallions here we're gonna put in after I start cooking. I kind of cook it in stages. This is my mom's recipe, so I'll see how good I can do to imitate her, but I know it ain't gonna be near as good. When I do use canned garlic, I do like this kind of garlic here. It's not in oil, it's in water, so it's a lot better, I think. Got golden potatoes here. I have them diced up and scalloped up. Gonna cook those, make sure those are good and soft. Got a nice sweet Vidalia onion, some parsley fresh from the garden. And here's a little magic ingredient that's gonna go in. This is some homemade bacon that we make. And I tell you what, I don't buy store-bought bacon anymore. It's just not that good. 2 pints of half and half, and a half a gallon of whole milk, and we'll use one of those sticks of butter. But like I said, it's gonna be in stages, so y'all follow along, and hope y'all enjoy it when I'm done. Let's get going. All right, first off, we are gonna get our half and half in milk starting to warm up. You don't wanna boil it. You just wanna bring it up to almost a boil, because if you boil it, it's gonna stick to the bottom of the pan and kind of gives it a little bit of a burnt taste from what I remember. I'm not saying you burned it any at all, Mom, but that might have been the last time I attempted this. But half and half in milk. Just get it starting to heat up. One stick of butter. And when I say homemade bacon, we actually we butchered this pig up out of Kansas. We got it up there this year, and they brought it back here, and we cut it up. We brine it for 14 days, and then we, well, we got a video on it. We'll show you. Y'all look it up. It's homemade bacon. Hey guys, we got our bacon almost done. Water's almost boiling. This is heating up, and remember, this is the milk and the half and half, and you don't want it to come to a boil. You don't want that milk to curdle in there. So you just want to bring it up to almost a boil. We have our butter melted down here. It's a whole stick of butter. That's what we're going to cook our oysters in. So let's get those guys done. These got to be some of the biggest, plumpest oysters I have seen in a long, long time. So we'll put these guys in here. And you don't want to really fry them. You just want them to start to curdle up just a little bit. Not curdle, but curl. Wow. Oh. And you want to save this juice. All that oyster juice is going to go right back in along with this stick of butter. So you just kind of want to get them to start to just harden up a little bit. And these are plump already, so they're going to be excellent. And you always have to make sure that they're still good. They're still good. Wow. Sweet oysters. So we're gonna let those guys just kind of curl up and cook a little bit, get hard. And then we'll take this whole thing here, when the milk's good and hot, dump it in there and let them cook the rest of the way. And then they'll cook all the way down. Check on it, couple little bubbles coming up, so it is about ready. About perfect. And what we'll do with the bacon, we'll bring that back out, let it dry off real good. We'll chop it up real fine and put it in there as well with all the vegetables. So our oysters are now simmering pretty good. And you don't want to really cook these guys real hard either, because you don't want to burn that butter and turn it black. Come on, taters. Like I say, you do it in stages, then you mix everything together, and you got oyster stew. Should turn out good. So you just want to see them where they're starting to curl up a little bit like that. So I'm going to turn it off and let the iron skillet do the rest. We'll let the potatoes come to a boil and get nice and soft. And when everything's done, you just dump it in and it's done. Sprinkle a little bit with parsley and them scallions. Turns out pretty good. We'll chop the bacon up now. All right, we got our milk bubbling right here. It's not really bubbling, it's just almost to a bubble. I have it on super low, so I'm gonna put in my onions right now so they'll get nice and soft. Potatoes are boiling real good. These scallions I'll put in just a minute. Put them in after I put the potatoes in so they don't get too soft. And then we'll put the star of the show in. All right, bacon is done. It's chopped up. Ooh, that was almost a fumble. Now we're going to put us in a little bit of garlic. Garlic makes the world go round. Just let it simmer in there with that butter. Two big old tablespoons. See, those oysters are just perfectly done now. Hard not to eat one. Well, our potatoes look pretty well done. Let's shut them guys down and put them in the strainer over there. And since they're done, we're going to throw them right into pot. Right in there with the onions. And since our oysters are done as well, we are going to pour them into the oyster stew. Now all the oyster juice here, you don't want to stir it up because there can be little shells and stuff in there, and there is. So I'm going to take it and just pour it out where that junk ain't in there. Now these oysters from Matagorda Bay, Jeff Austin, I got to say thanks again for hooking me up with these oysters down there. You know, everybody says they have the best oysters in the world. I've been all around the world eating oysters. When I was in the military, I traveled around and I ate oysters everywhere. And Matagorda Bay, hands down, got to be the best oysters I think I've had since I was a kid and had them in the Banana River. They remind me of that much. They are huge, they're sweet, they're salty, they're absolutely perfect. Yeah, everything is perfect on that one. Now you want to add salt and you want to add your potatoes and onions and everything, all the ingredients that you're putting in here. You want to cook it to proportion. It doesn't have to, you don't have to make a whole gallon, a little over a gallon at a time. You can shorten up the recipe and put it in what you like. This is just the way I like, with a few little additives in there. And I think it's the first time I've seen potatoes in an oyster stew. But as far as cooking it the way you want it, as far as salt, make sure you taste it first before you start adding any salt. One thing I like to put in, top off any of my bisque, any of my stews, is a little bit of Old Bay. It gives it a little extra seafood taste. And you put that in there to taste as well. Since this is a whole gallon, I know I'm gonna need a little bit more than usual, so we're gonna put that much Old Bay in. Old Florida cracker recipe always calls for a little bit of Worcestershire sauce as well, so a little bit of Worcestershire sauce in there, and then we'll stir it all up. Oh wow, very good. It needs a little bit of salt, of course, maybe a little more Old Bay. Salt to taste, pepper to taste. A little better. We'll leave it like that. Anybody wants to salt it a little more, they can. But that is perfect. And our scallions. It is just about done. And that bacon, because that bacon is going to give it some good flavor too. And right when it's done, we'll top it off with that parsley. You can let this cook down and get as thick as you want, but the longer you cook it, the more your vegetables are going to get soft. Almost ready. About 10 minutes. Well, all right, folks, it's time for the acid test now. Let's see how we did. Oh, man, that looks good. I can get a few of them fat oysters in there. Finish it off with a little parsley. See how close I replicated Mama's oyster stew here. Wow, that's a big oyster. Let's see here. I'd say, that is very good. Once again, thank you, Jeff Austin, for introducing me to those Matagorda Bay oysters. They are unbelievable. And a great weekend with all the DOA guys down there at the Writers Fest. Had a ball. Quick and easy oyster stew. Takes about 45 minutes to do. Hope y'all saw all the ingredients I put in there. It's very tasty. Highly recommend it. We'll see y'all on the next cookout.